everyone, welcome to Kelly's Kitchen. It's a wonderful fall day here today. Apples, pumpkin, squash, they are all wonderful things that I like about fall. The cooler temperatures, being able to bake stuff in the oven, it's just my favorite time of the year. Today we're going to make spaghetti squash lasagna with spinach. Really excited about it. Have my spaghetti squash here. I actually have two of them, and these are pretty small spaghetti squash. I have one already cut in half, and I took the seeds out of it, and I'm going to do that with the second one here, and we want to get these in the oven right away, get them start to cook. We're going to put them in an oven 350 degrees for 50 minutes. So in order to do that, you have to be very careful and take your knife, and you need to split this down the middle. Again, be very careful. Keep your fingers out of the way when you're doing this. We're going to cut it right in half here. As best we can, there you go. And then we're just going to scoop the seeds out and put that for our compost. That's one half. Let's get the other half. One thing you can do with these seeds, if you wash them and clean them off, get the strings off of them, you could bake them in the oven just like you did pumpkin seeds, butternut squash seeds. I really love that. Up to you. You can compost them too, no problem. Whatever you feel comfortable with. I do like roasting them though. They taste really good. So once we have our two spaghetti squash halves, and again, these are pretty small. These are almost, I would say, an individual portion for spaghetti squash. We're going to take a little olive oil and drizzle it inside there just a little bit. And then we're going to throw these in the oven, 350 degrees for 50 minutes or until they're tender, and it'll take about 50 minutes. You're going to flip them over, put them cut side down on your cookie sheet, and then they're good to go in the oven. So while that's cooking, we'll get the rest of our ingredients ready. For the rest of our ingredients, we need 4 cloves of thinly sliced garlic, 8 ounces of spinach, which I washed and rinsed off. Then we need 8 ounces of ground turkey. You could use ground chicken, ground beef too, whatever you have. 1.5 cups of marinara sauce here. A half cup of mozzarella cheese, shredded. A half cup of ricotta cheese. And a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. So right now we need to take all this to the stove and get it cooking. We're going to turn our stove on, medium. We're going to put a little olive oil in here just to coat the pan. Let that heat up a little bit. Once our oil is heated up and we coated the pan, we're going to add our garlic, 4 cloves. Get that in there. And it's only going to take about 30 seconds for this to cook up. It'll get really nice and fragrant when it cooks up. It smells delicious. If you like garlic, this is the recipe for you. You can see pretty quickly it starts to turn a little brown in there. Then we can add our spinach, and I have 8 ounces of spinach that I'm going to throw in there. And all you have to do is get the spinach to be wilted. That only takes about a minute. Mix it around a little bit so you get all sides of the spinach. You can see it starting to wilt and it turns a really bright, vibrant green. So as soon as that's wilted, we will turn it off, turn the heat off, and take this off of the, we'll take this off of the heat. See how quick that happened there? And this now we're gonna add to our ricotta and spaghetti squash mixture. Now we're gonna get our pan turned back on to medium-high. And we're gonna add our ground turkey. Get that cooked up. We'll break that apart a little bit, it'll cook faster. It's only gonna take about 4 minutes to cook this up. As soon as your turkey is nice and browned, we are going to add our marinara sauce. That's 1.5 cups of marinara sauce. And then we're just gonna let this simmer for 4 minutes. So we'll get this all nice and mixed up and let it simmer. It's already starting to simmer. So medium low, we'll have that on. We'll let this go for 4 minutes and then we'll check back. Now that this has been going for 4 minutes, it has reduced down a little bit. We're actually going to turn the heat off. The smell of the tomatoes and the turkey and the garlic, spinach with the squash and the cheeses all put together. This is smelling and looking delicious. I can't wait. Let's take this back over to the counter so we can get it all put together. I got my spaghetti squash out of the oven, and what I did now is I turned my oven up to 425 so we can finish baking these once we get them filled. I already took 2 of the shells and I took all the spaghetti squash out and I put it on my clean kitchen towel and I drained it off a little bit. So we're going to show you how to do that with the other 2 here. You're going to make sure that these want to be cooled for a good 10 minutes before you do this. So I have my, let's move this bowl here for just a second. I have my clean towel here, or well, it was used on these other 2 squash. I'm gonna take my spaghetti squash and you're just gonna take a fork and you're gonna string it out. Spaghetti squash is so wonderful because it truly does mimic noodles very well. I love this in any of my pasta dishes. That's really good. There's one of them emptied out. Now let's get the second one here on our towel. Same thing, you're just gonna scrape it out with your fork, go crossways from it so it makes it all look nice and noodly. See how easy that is to make these noodles? Okay, so that's out of those. Put these back on our cookie sheet because we're going to use them to fill them up. Now I have my kitchen cloth here, and again, make sure that these have cooled for a little bit. You don't want to burn yourself. We don't need any burn victims here. If it does feel too warm for you, if you have a little bit more sensitive hands, you could take a silicone pot holder and use that when you squeeze it out. See, it's wringing out really nice there. But this actually isn't too hot, so I think I can do this with my hand. To finish this up, just get all that excess out, all that excess moisture out. So like I said, I have my oven turned up to 425 now. It was on 350 before when we were cooking the squash. So it's preheating. We have our spaghetti squash here. We drained out the moisture. We're going to put this in our bowl so we can get everything mixed up. All right, it's in our bowl. Just loosen that up a little bit. See how it's all nice stringy pasta? So now we're gonna add a ricotta cheese. Get that in there, mix it up. I also have some salt, about 1/8 of a teaspoon, and some Italian seasoning I put in there. If you don't have Italian seasoning, you can definitely use a little thyme and oregano would work great in here as well. I have about 1/2 of a teaspoon. We're gonna mix that all up with the spaghetti squash. And I'm actually gonna grab a spoon here now. And then we're gonna put in about 1/2 of the mozzarella. We can just eyeball it, doesn't have to be perfect. Sprinkle in about 1/2 of it. Looks good. Mix that up really good. Now this, also we're gonna add our garlic and our spinach, which we had cooking. Well, we gotta make sure to get all the garlic in there. Can't miss any of that. Okay, now we get to put it all together. So we have our shells here. And we are gonna fill these equally with our turkey and marinara sauce. We're gonna spoon that in there. Split it evenly between the 4 of them. All right, we got that. Now we're gonna do our spaghetti squash and spinach. We're gonna spoon that in there as well. Split it evenly. That one's gonna need a little bit more in that one. There you go. All right, those are all nice and stuffed. Now we can sprinkle the rest of the mozzarella cheese on top. And again, just evenly eyeball it, doesn't have to be perfect. And then the Parmesan. Oh, this is smelling so good, looking so good. All right, now we're gonna get this in the oven for another 20 minutes. When our 20 minutes is up, we're gonna put it to broil for just 1 to 2 minutes just to get it nice and brown and bubbly on the top of it. Oh, and we can't forget, I did chop up a little fresh parsley. I'm gonna sprinkle that on top as well. You could also put a little of your Italian seasoning, oregano and thyme on top of it if you had that as well. If you didn't have fresh parsley, that would give it a really nice taste also. So let's get this in the oven. Okay, we got our spaghetti squash out of the oven. We had it on broil for just a minute or two so you can see it got nice and brown on the top of it. It looks and smells delicious. Can't wait to get this plated up so we can give it a try. I really hope you guys like the recipe. You know what to do. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment down below. Have a great day.